What is differentiated instruction? Williams states, differentiation means tailoring instruction to meet individual needs. Whether teachers differentiate content, process, products, or the learning environment, the use of ongoing assessment and flexible grouping makes this a successful approach to instruction. Whenever a teacher reaches out to an individual or small group to vary his or her teaching to create the best learning experience possible, that teacher is differentiating instruction. According to Williams, differentiation in the classroom involves varying instructional topics. Students are often found to be more successful in the classroom when the instruction is personalized and individualized for the student. Differentiated instruction encompasses those two key factors. Dixon states that differentiation is designed to meet the individual characteristics of all learners. Teachers can differentiate at least 4 classroom elements based on student readiness, interest, or learning profile. These 4 elements are the content, process, products, and learning environment. Content is what the students need to learn or how the student will get access to the information. An example of differentiating content would be presenting ideas through both auditory and visual means. Process encompasses the activities in which the student engages in order to make sense and master the content. An example of differentiating the process would be providing manipulatives or other hands-on supports for students who need them when being taught the content. Products are culminating projects that ask the students to rehearse, apply, and extend what he or she has learned in a unit. An example of products would be giving each student a rubric that matches and extends students' varied skill levels. A learning environment is the way that a classroom works and feels. An example of differentiating in the learning environment would be making sure there are places in the room to work quietly and without distraction, as well as places that invite student collaboration. These 4 elements of differentiated instruction are extremely important because they make up differentiated instruction and how it is implemented into the classroom. Furthermore, multiculturalism, learning styles, and response to intervention cater to the differentiated needs of a student within an educational setting. Multiculturalism refers to any form of education or teaching that incorporates the history, values, beliefs, and perspectives of people from different cultural backgrounds. The goals of multicultural education include creating a safe, accepting, and successful learning environment for all, increasing awareness of global issues, strengthening cultural consciousness, strengthening intercultural awareness, encouraging critical thinking, and preventing prejudice and discrimination within the classroom environment. McDonough states that multiculturalism addresses some of the most unpredictable issues of our time, including notions of racism, discrimination, imperialism, colonialism, and a host of controversial political and educational issues such as privatization, affirmative action, and individual and collective rights. According to the National Association for Multicultural Education, also known as NAME, multicultural education helps students to develop positive self-image, offers student educational opportunities, promotes multiple perspectives and ways of thinking, and teaches students to critique society in the interest of social justice. To integrate multiculturalism into the classroom, the teacher can encourage community participation or create multicultural projects that require students to choose a background outside of their own. For example, the South Carolina Social Studies Standard 3-5.5, the students are learning about the development of economic, political, and social opportunities for African Americans in South Carolina after the Jim Crow laws came to an end. As the students are learning how civil rights were coming into play, the teacher could discuss with the class about diversity. The teacher can mention that even though everybody has different colored skin, everyone also has equal values that make us all considered equal. The teacher could create discussion within the classroom and also have the students create anti-bias or anti-race posters for the students to create and present. Christodoulou states, the goal of multiple intelligences is to offer a pluralistic view of intelligences, promoting the notion that there is more than one way to be smart. An intelligence describes the bias psychological potential to process information in certain ways in order to solve problems or fashion products that are valued in cultural or community. The term learning styles implies an approach that applies equally to all contents. The term learning styles speaks to the understanding that every student learns differently. Technically, an individual's learning style refers to the preferential way in which the student absorbs, processes, comprehends, and retains information. Individual learning styles depend on cognitive, emotional, and environmental factors as well as one's prior experience. In other words, everyone is different. It is important for education to understand the difference in their students' learning styles so that they can implement best practice strategies into their daily activities, curriculum, and assessments. One of the most accepted understandings of learning styles is that student learning styles fall into 3 different categories: visual learners, auditory learners, and kinesthetic learners. Visual learners prefer the use of image, maps, and graphic organizers to access and understand new information. Auditory learners learn best through content that listens and speaks to situations such as lectures and group discussions. Kinesthetic learners are students who best understand information through tactile representations of information. These students are hands-on learners and learn best through figuring things out by hand. Identifying your students as a visual, auditory, or kinesthetic learner and aligning your overall curriculum with these learning styles will prove to be beneficial for your entire classroom. Allowing students to access information in terms they are comfortable with will increase their academic competence. In the South Carolina Social Studies Standard 3-1.1, this example, the students will be learning the 6 landform regions of South Carolina. As the students are learning about the 6 landform regions, the teacher can make sure to include the different learning styles and multiple intelligences into the lesson. The students would be broken up into groups. From there, they would be assigned a landform in which they would do a research-based project to present to the class. Another way to meet their learning style would be to provide students with a note-taker sheet to fill out as the teacher presents the content. They may also learn the landform regions through a song or dance to get them active and engaged. The students could also take a journey around the school to point out the different things they notice about their region. These examples really encompass what it means for a teacher to create activities that can be applied to all students with different learning styles. Ballou states, response to intervention is a framework for collecting and using data to match students to interventions of varying intensity. The RTI process begins with high-quality instruction and universal screening of all children in the general education classroom. Struggling learners are provided with intervention at increasing levels of intensity to accelerate their rate of learning. These services may be provided by a variety of personnel, including general education teachers, special educators, and specialists. Progress is closely monitored to assess both the learning rate and level performance of individual students. The purpose for RTI is to create a well-integrated system of instruction and intervention. Tiered instruction is an approach used to differentiate instruction for all students. According to Ballou, Tier 1 refers to the core instruction that all students receive. If a student is not progressing in the process, they are moved to Tier 2. This stage of the intervention process usually consists of services that are provided in a small group setting. Students who continue to show too little progress will be moved to the final tier, which is Tier 3. Tier 3 provides individualized, intensive interventions that target the students' skill deficits. Students who do not achieve the desired level of progress from these interventions will be referred for an evaluation. This evaluation can consider the students for eligibility into the special education services. However, in every case, RTI can be a school-wide framework to improve the overall student outcomes in an educational setting. In the South Carolina Social Studies Standard 3-1.2, the example would be students would be learning the location and characteristics of significant features of South Carolina, rivers, and landforms. The teacher could use this lesson to ensure that the students can read the text at the appropriate level. The teacher could evaluate his or her students through checklists and asking probing questions throughout the lesson. As the teacher thoroughly observes his or her students throughout the lesson, the teacher can make sure that the inference as to whether any child may need monitory assistance in a small group setting instead of whole class instruction. Of all these factors play a huge role in the success of differentiated instruction. Every student is different and unique in how they learn. Therefore, differentiated instruction in a classroom is beneficial for not just the students but also the teacher. The teacher has a better insight into his or her students' learning needs. There is varying instruction within the classroom to build community and an environment that encourages learners to challenge and push themselves.